Welcome to this week's Monday Minutes. My name is Kelly.
And my name is Jessie, and this week we're here to talk to you again about Koha's new ERM, or Electronic Resource Management module. And this week we're going to talk about licenses. If you watched last week, Kelly and I spoke about the agreements module. So today we're going to jump right into licenses. So again, we showed you last week how to enable the ERM, or the Electronic Resource Management module. So we can see it here. Once we click in, this will take us into our three options that we have. So again, agreements, which we covered last week, licenses, which we'll cover today, and then e-holdings, which we'll talk about next week. The licensing module allows you to essentially keep track of any active license that you have with a vendor for a given agreement for the titles and packages, databases, or subscriptions that you have to these electronic resources. So let's take a look at one of the examples we have in here. So if we come in and we look at Ancestry, we can see that this particular license is set up for the Ancestry database. We can see that it's connected to our ProQuest vendor. Again, those vendors are connected directly to our acquisitions module, where we manage all of our vendors. In here, we can see the description, the type status, start and end date, users, and the document. So now what we'll do is we'll come in here and we'll look at the form. This looks very similar to what we saw with last week with agreements.
It really does. It's nice that it looks the same.
Yeah. And Kelly, just like with all of our other tables and forms that we see within Koha, you can tell right away which ones are required. We know that all drop downs are connected. In this case, our vendors are connected to our acquisitions module, as we stated earlier. You have your date pickers to state when the license is active and when it ends. You'll also see the same thing we saw in agreements with our users, where again, this allows us to connect either subject librarian, an e-resource librarian, or electronic services librarian in the system. And again, we see that drop down. And Kelly, where can we change these?
Authorized values, Jessie, authorized values.
And of course, the last thing we see down there is our documents. This is where you can actually physically upload a scan of that document, or if you have multiple documents, this is where you can come in and actually add those documents directly to that license. So again, this is very simple. It's very similar to what we saw last week with our agreements. This is just now where you're managing the physical license for that agreement.
Now, Jessie, last week we talked about agreements, and in agreements, you could link a license. So once you create a license, you can then go into agreements and link those as well. So they're all kind of a nice interchanged kind of hub.
Exactly. So the order that we're kind of talking about, the creation of the ERM, will create the steps for you. So, right, you create your agreement first. What is actually governing what you have in the system? Then we take it into phase 2, which is the license. And then next week, we'll talk about the e-holdings, which is actually what's governing those agreements and licensing in the system. Now, one other thing that we want to state, you can search or narrow down licenses within here. So again, just like we see with all of our other tables, we have that search box, and then we can also search within each one of those tables within the system. You'll notice you can also export a spreadsheet. So if you need to send this off to, let's say, your finance or a separate department, you can. You can also configure the table settings for e-resource management for your licenses, titles and packages, which we'll see next week with e-holdings, and then of course your agreements. So again, this is just another great way that you can manage now actual electronic resources within the system.
Well, this is exciting. You know, we're going to really dig into the e-holdings next week, but then of course we'll be at Koha US in Portsmouth, where we have a full presentation on the electronic resource module. So if you're coming, we're excited to see you. If not, definitely make sure you watch us online.
Okay.
Have a great week.